Welcome everybody to our April Game of the Month discussion happening in May.
Yeah.
Anyway, once again, joining me here today, we've got the one and only SirLolz, Zachary, and SMWiz. Thank you both for coming in and joining me today on a discussion for Metroid Prime.
Yee.
So, I don't know about you two, but Metroid Prime is actually a pretty special Metroid game for me. This is one of my first introductions to the franchise. But yeah, we'll talk more about that in a second here. But thank you both again for joining me here. What was your first introduction to Metroid Prime? Did you guys play this one at launch, or was it kind of a later thing for you?
It wasn't a launch game for me because unfortunately I didn't have a GameCube at launch, but I remember playing the demo at the kiosk at the Walmart and was blown away. And I knew it would be one of those games I would have to play at that point. The kiosk did its job. I obviously couldn't get past the pirate station because the demo didn't go that far, or I never had the time. I never checked which one was the truth. But yeah, I did get it when bundled. When I did get my GameCube at Radio Shack, it was bundled with it. And that's when I finally got to play Metroid Prime proper.
Oh, nice. Dude, can we talk, just go on a mini tangent here and remember the old Walmart display kiosks when you would try to play the GameCube games?
Yeah, having to look up.
That's how I played Mario 64 the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Walmart kiosk.
Dude, Blockbuster kiosk for me. Mario Kart 64. Whew, sold instantly. Anyway, besides the point. So, Wiz, how about you? What's your brief history for Metroid Prime here?
You know, the funny thing was, so I had a launch day GameCube, but I didn't pick up Prime when it came out. But later, when the Platinum GameCube came out, they had a bundle. I think it was in late 2004, early 2005 that came with Prime. So I picked up a Platinum Cube with Metroid Prime.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, then years later, I got the Metroid Prime Trilogy steel case for the Wii.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
And now, because I'm a total sucker, I bought the Prime Remaster on Switch, too.
Oh, yeah.
So I have 3 copies of this game.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
I have 3 copies as well. So
let's see here. I've got original Prime Trilogy digitally on Wii U, actually. I sold my physical disc because it was going for so friggin' much money. I just decided to sell it, part with it, since I had the digital version.
Right here.
Yeah, that one right there. And then
I got it when it came out on the Wii U.
the stupid GameStop reprints of that in the plastic cases, man. When they reprinted that in Xenoblade and just sold them as new pre-owned, it's the worst. Anyway, but then yeah, I had to buy Prime Remastered as well because again, this game is a very special one for me when it comes to the Metroid franchise because even though I had played the original Metroid on NES, I'd never beaten it. It was my buddy's game. And we'd screw around with it at his house. We'd never get anywhere in it because it was NES Metroid and you get lost, you get destroyed. We eventually did beat it though, just to throw that out there, but not until way, way later. It was actually after I beat it in Metroid Prime on GameCube because it was an unlockable thing. When you beat the game, you could unlock the NES version of the game.
Yeah.
And that's when I finally beat the NES version of Metroid. But
Sweet.
For me, Metroid Fusion, for some reason, I saw it in a gaming magazine, became just weirdly obsessed with it. Don't know why. Again, I never played Super Metroid. I never got anywhere in NES Metroid. We screwed around with Metroid 2 on Game Boy, on my buddy's Game Boy, same one that owned the NES version. He had Metroid 2 on Game Boy as well. It took him 12 years to beat that game, by the way, which was cool. He messaged us, he texted us, he's like, I finally beat Metroid 2. And we're just like, dude, that is sick, because we'd all been messing around with that game for years, at that point.
Yeah.
But beside the point. So for some reason, I never touched Super Metroid, by the way. I'd never played Super Metroid. So Metroid Fusion pops up in my Game Informer, my EGM, I don't remember which one. And I'm just immediately obsessed. I'm like, I have to have this game. I have to have this game. I
Yeah.
have to have this game. And like just consumed by it. So like Thanksgiving, what was it, 2003? Metroid Fusion, Metroid Prime come out. And I pick up Metroid Fusion. And I'm just like, this is like the coolest crap I've ever played. Like I'm just so obsessed with it, blasting through it, getting stuck at parts because I'd never really played a Metroid game properly. And so that translated to, okay, I want the one on GameCube now because it has the Game Boy Advance to GameCube connectivity. So I want to unlock the Fusion suit in the...
Yeah, unlocking that Fusion suit.
I want the
was
Fusion
amazing.
suit. Like, I just want this. And it's a first-person game, which is my jam. Like, I'm a big first-person guy. And, like, even though it's not a first-person shooter, it's a first-person adventure. And so I was, like, super obsessed with Prime from that point forward as well. So I picked up Prime. And then proceeded to immediately get stuck in this game, and it took me 4 years to beat it. Like, I didn't beat Prime until 2007. Like, I was still playing it well into the 360, and I finally beat it, and I'm like, yes, I finally beat Metroid Prime. I got this.
Well, I mean, I got Metroid Prime in like 2004, 2005. I didn't beat it until just a month and a half ago, you know. Because, you know, the GameCube one I got shortly before, you know, ending high school. And then, you know, the Prime trilogy I got in college. And I don't remember if I got it mid-semester or whatever, but at some point school took over, didn't finish it, didn't come back to it.
Oh, yeah.
But on the Switch, I finally finished it. So,
yes.
You know, let me buy a game 3 times. I'll get around to it eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
This is actually my first... Metroid Prime was my first Metroid game, period.
Oh, nice.
The only exposure I had to Samus before that was her appearance in Smash Brothers on the N64.
Yeah.
And that's actually how I learned it was a woman, too. When I beat the... I noticed right away, like, when you get stunned, you know, and that X-ray effect happens on your character, I noticed right away that it's like, when it happened to Samus, it's like, wait, you can see the person inside the suit. You don't see their skeleton. And it's like, that looks like a woman's body. And then there was also like when you beat the story mode and, you know, it shows her reflection in the visor. It's like, oh, it was a girl. Okay.
Yep.
So that's when that mystery was spoiled for me. But yeah,
Just
Metroid Prime.
Just a little side note. Let us all lament the fact that she went from brunette to blonde. Just saying, I guess. I don't know.
F in the chats. F in the chat.
I don't know. We'll need a poll. Who prefers brunette? Who prefers blonde? I guess.
Oh no, those are fighting words there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, interaction,
What are
engagement.
internet comments for, if not fighting? Okay.
Interaction and
True that.
engagement. I mean, that's what we need to build everything, I guess.
True that. Yeah. But yeah, my my bundle for my GameCube bundle came out when Metroid Prime 2 was coming out.
Oh,
and
yes.
it actually had the bonus disc for Metroid Prime 2. So
oh, yeah.
I don't know when that
one right there
came out.
That one
was
right
that
there.
2004, 2005, but that was when I first played. Yeah, that was when I first played Metroid Prime.
Oh,
I don't know how long it took me to beat, but I know I beat it within a year. It didn't take me long.
Oh, man.
Because like I was just enthralled with that
Yeah,
game.
I just kept getting stuck, man. And I just kept jumping back into Halo 2 Xbox Live games, too.
See, I didn't have an internet connection, so I didn't have a Halo's multiplayer to jump onto.
Oh, man.
No, but it's funny because it sounds like your journey was the same as mine in that I had never heard of Samus before Smash Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And so Prime was my first Metroid game.
Nice. Yeah.
See, here I thought I was going to be the one that had like the least Metroid experience out of the group, and all of a sudden somehow I had a little bit more because at least I touched the NES version.
Yeah, it's like you touched the NES version. I didn't play Super Metroid until college.
I've never even seen the original NES version.
Dude,
so.
I actually ended up playing Super Metroid through emulation on my OG Xbox after beating Fusion.
Oh, that's awesome.
Like, I beat Fusion and my Xbox was modded, so I just put the Super Nintendo emulator on there and beat Super Metroid through that.
Yeah. Nice.
Like, I didn't experience Super Metroid on an actual Super Nintendo until about 2017. Like, I'd played the Virtual Console version on Wii, when it released. I bought it, so it's like, there we go. Now I have an official version of this game. But I never played the actual Super Nintendo cartridge of Super Metroid until 2017.
Yeah, those things are getting pricey too.
Yeah, I
Get the
played
Japanese
Super
version.
Metroid. I don't remember if it was the Wii or the Wii U, but you know the old Club Nintendo where you get the points.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
And it's
the
like,
good
yeah,
one.
I got a yes, the good
Right.
one.
The good one.
I got a digital copy of Super Metroid, and so that's how I experienced the game.
Nice. Not bad.
Yeah, Rip Club Nintendo.
The good one.
F in the chat, man. F in the chats. Club
Yes, I do
Nintendo
just
back
have my
then.
Wii U box sitting right here since I was doing Wii U
Yeah,
tutorials.
don't you?
Like,
I
it's
have
just sitting
mine as
right
well.
I mean, mine's right here off camera. over
Yeah,
there,
it's
but-
just right here. This isn't even the Wii U that goes in this box. This is a spare Wii U I got for like $35. I just store in this box because they're
Hell
better
yeah.
to store a Wii U than in a Wii U box.
True that. Can't argue with that logic.
But yeah, I mean, still some Metroid Prime trilogy on that one. Anyway, so Metroid Prime, like, I think it's really fascinating, the history behind this game. Retro Studios, I just remember there being a lot of doubt on whether or not Retro Studios would be able to pull off a Metroid game, because at the time they were just a rebranded studio. I don't remember who they were before. Acclaim something, right? I don't know. Someone in chat will have to correct me on that, but I believe they were an Acclaim studio before rebranding into Retro. So there was just a lot of talk about how they weren't going to do it. It being a first-person game was just going to destroy the franchise. Like, it's too vast of a departure. It's not going to work. And just, the typical gamer crap of, it's going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But the game comes out and just immediately gets all kinds of praise because of its amazing level design. It's like crisp controls for the time.
It's still on the top of the list, isn't it? Like,
Oh, yeah,
best-selling game.
Well, I mean,
or-
all,
It's
all
best-
the particle effects, the visuals, everything they did for that on the GameCube.
Oh, this
And
game,
especially if
is
you threw that
stunning.
into progressive scan,
Oh, yeah.
it was beautiful.
it's a stunning game on GameCube. Like,
Yeah,
absolutely
there's
gorgeous.
Yeah, there's some interviews from Retro staff that I've seen. It's like, they had a lot of challenges, but something that was really cool that they did is with the visors and stuff, they always made sure that the visors never took any more processing than the standard combat visor. Because if the the combat visor was the default. So if an area is too big for the combat visor, then it's definitely going to be too big for this other visor. So they intentionally, it's like, whatever we do for visors, it cannot be more intensive than the combat visor. And I bring that up because that's really cool that they were able to do like the X-ray and the thermal visor with no additional system cost.
Which is funny because when you play the game in emulation, they actually were problematic for quite a while.
Yeah.
But
Well,
that's
yeah,
besides the
because
point.
how they did it, just a little bit of a tangent, like the thermal visor, it actually references some GameCube specific function calls.
Oh, yeah.
So that's probably why it didn't work
Oh,
in
yeah.
emulators, because those weren't emulated.
Yep.
Well,
Same
and the
with the
other-
rain effects. When you'd look up and have the rain hit your visor, it would cause massive lag back in the day on Dolphin. Like, it was good stuff. But
That's funny.
anyway, besides the point, little side tangent, because again, I'm a big emulation fan. So, I mean, I backed up my copy of Metroid Prime on GameCube forever ago and have experimented in it with Dolphin for years. So, I mean, that's why... they have special builds like Prime Hack that are just dedicated to nothing but Metroid Prime mods and enhancements and crazy things that you could do with this game. Like, the community behind Metroid Prime these days is just like super fun to observe. Like, I'm not active in that community whatsoever because I'm perfectly A-okay with the base game. But like seeing what we'll use Ancient Gamer. I don't remember what his current channel name is. I think he was going to rebrand it. But I know him as Ancient. So like he does a lot of mod stuff, and seeing some of his Metroid Prime Dolphin videos were just so fun to watch. It's like, it doesn't even look like the same game. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, there's some HD texture packs, not even like texture packs, but like dolphin side mods that
Mhm.
just blow the graphics up, and it's so beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And it's crazy that even the base game itself still looks really good.
Oh yeah.
Yes, the textures are limited, but
Yeah.
what they were able to do for graphics is just phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
Well, and the other thing that makes that so impressive is that it was so early, like it was so close to launch.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It
it's
relatively
like,
was.
It's like, yeah, I mean, like it was within the first year of the launch, and typically, like you don't see a game come out that pushes, system performance and system graphics until the end of the life cycle.
Well,
Yeah.
So,
I
like
mean,
the fact that they were able to squeeze out what they did, like practically at launch, is just phenomenal.
Yeah, because even like on the Xbox 360, a lot of Xbox 360 games on launch just looked like up-resed Xbox games, but that Metroid was one of those games, like you said, that was
oh yeah, it did come out in
it looked
2002.
next.
Yeah, it came out in
I said
2002.
2003 earlier. That was my mistake. Yeah, it was 2002.
I was just letting that slide. Yeah, 2002,
Yeah,
same as Mario
2002.
Sunshine.
2002. That's nuts. Like that blows my mind.
I'd have to ask a friend. He told me
Blows my
apparently
mind.
there's actually a controversy about like the release date for Metroid Prime. And he's like, no, I know it was this date. And everyone else apparently is like, no, it's something else.
The
I'd have to ask
problem,
him for
the
full
problem
story.
with release dates in this era, especially, is a lot of stores would break street date. So, Metal Gear Solid 3, for instance, in 2004, I actually got that game an entire week early because Walmart we were driving through St. George. This is back when I lived in California, so we were coming through Utah for holidays. Or something. I don't remember what exactly, but they had Metal Gear Solid 3 at just the Walmart a week before it was supposed to be released. So I just bought it a literal week before it was supposed to be out. And I'm like,
I actually tried to do that with Super Smash Brothers for Wii U as well. They put it on the shelf before it was ready to sell, but when they tried to scan it, it wouldn't scan. I was like, damn it.
yep.
Well, it's because now they have agreements. Like so, back in the day. So I worked at Game Crazy, before they went under, and I was there for the launch of the PSP. And yeah, to Ice's point, those were in the days where companies broke the release date a lot of times.
All
and
the
it's to
time.
try and get sales. It's like
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
you get it on the shelf before your competitor, you get the sale.
Yep, exactly.
Our regional manager came to our store to give us the fiercest warning because apparently the distribution agreement with Sony or something was like a $10,000 penalty
Oh, yeah.
per console if we released it early.
Yep.
Ooh.
Like
Yep.
something just so disgustingly massive that there
Yep.
would be no logical reason to release it early.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what they had to start doing because even my last stint at GameStop that I was working there until about 2014, like Best Buy was releasing games days upon days early. And so we would get emails being like, all right, just start selling this game, even though it doesn't release for 3 days from now because Best Buy broke street dates. So now everyone gets to because Best Buy screwed up. Like it was interesting. It was very interesting times. But anyway, back to Metroid Prime specifically here. Like it is definitely a nice graphical powerhouse for the GameCube. And I mean the GameCube is a little unfair in that regard. There are so many amazingly pretty games that like were just undeserved and unwarranted at the time, especially something like Rogue Squadron 2 being a day one launch title. And so
Yeah.
you have not open world, but I mean you have a sprawling world like Metroid Prime that just seamlessly loads up. Like that was one of the coolest things about the GameCube in my mind was like, even though it had transitioned to discs, most first-party Nintendo games tried to still steer away from loading times. Like the loading times would be discrete, hidden within the environment, hidden within different things. And so, I mean, that's what the doors are in Metroid Prime
Yeah.
is the loading sequence. So, I mean, some
They did
doors
a
would load
really good
faster
job
than
with
others,
that.
would open faster than others, of course, because of how the data was being streamed in, how big the next room was. But you never felt like you were trapped at a loading screen. Like there was just no loading screens in the original Metroid Prime, really, on GameCube.
Minus the elevators.
Yeah, minus the elevators, of course. That was actually one of my areas of slight disappointment with the remaster, is having that first initial load screen when you're loading up your game. Like, it just takes a lot longer than the original GameCube version did, but it's like the game's a lot prettier than the original GameCube version, so I'll let it slide. And I like seeing that, I like seeing that loading screen artwork when it loads up. So it's like, I'll let it slide, I guess. But
that's definitely the segment of remaster versus original.
Yeah.
The remaster's a very pretty game for sure.
I think the remaster is phenomenal, personally. Like,
what not mods, even just for Metroid, but remasters in general.
Yeah,
because like Halo 1 Anniversary, thing's nasty. That is not a remaster.
Well, I mean,
this though, it is a remaster.
The problem with Halo CE Anniversary is that they adopted Reach's art style for it.
Yes.
Like, that's the biggest problem that I have with that one.
They also killed All-Tone, like the flood in the library. They destroyed that. They butchered it. Anyway, returning to Metroid, this isn't. I was very impressed. It is an actual remaster. You know,
it's
not
good.
just. It's not a, and they do that butter spot so well, where it's not just a reimagining of the Metroid Prime. It's bringing it up as if you're looking through a filter. You know, like the graphics filter. Oh, look, pretty graphics, but like there's no new interpretations of. Well, minimal interpretations of things.
No, it's a 1-to-1. It's a 1-to-1 port of the game, just an entirely new graphics engine.
Yeah, that's one of the things. You know, I follow some data miners on Twitter, just mostly because I think it's fascinating what they do and what they share.
Mm-hmm.
And like, apparently, this remaster has a surprising amount of original code like running under the hood. I mean, it is, you know, a true remaster instead of a remake.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels like Metroid back in the day, you know. Yeah, it's very faithful, and I'm very glad they did it this way.
And with that, though, I will say I love, you know, because now we have 3 different versions of this game that they put multiple control schemes in the game.
Yep, that's what I was just gonna say.
If you want to play like vintage GameCube, you know, style controls, you can do that.
And that's what's great too, because you can still hook it up.
Yeah.
You can hook up a GameCube controller.
Yeah, you can put a GameCube controller connected to your Switch and play like that. If you want to play with point controls with, you know, your Joy-Cons, like it's a Wii, you can do that.
Yep.
Or now they have a modern control scheme that you can use with the dual analog, which is fantastic.
They even improved like the original control schemes because they introduced gyro. So you can have it play like the original, but then you can use gyro to kind of look around like you couldn't do in the original.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like original control scheme plus.
Yep. That's the 4th control option. Now, see, I personally don't like gyro aiming. I think it's pretty abysmal, but I'm glad it's there for people that actually can do it. It's just not me, not my thing. But one thing that I thought was very fascinating when you switch over to the dual analog controls on the remaster is that you get a new ability in the spring ball that was not in the original game.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't exist in the original game, and I'm not going to lie, it makes things a lot simpler when it comes to needing to do double bomb jumps and things for those certain puzzles.
Because, like, it is one of the. It's unfortunate that the original bombs, because that was what they were kind of for outside of damage, was using for a jump, and now you just jump straight out. But
I mean, it speeds it up.
So much time out. Yeah, it cuts so much time out, and I like backtracking in a game, but sometimes it's brutal in Metroid Prime. But that's a critique for later.
Yeah, but one of the things about the controls in particular, like, the game was built on that GameCube controller. It was built on having the C-stick be to switch your weapons out, your D-pad swapped your visors out. It was meant as a single stick experience, and it worked so incredibly well for what it was. And then when they translated it to the Wii for Metroid Prime Trilogy after Prime 3 had come out, and they added in the motion aiming, you could tell that the game just became way easier because of it. Like, the original design was not being taken into account, and different fights were just incredibly easier compared to the original controls. Which, I mean, it can be argued it's a good thing, it can be argued it's a bad thing. I personally don't care either way. But then that gets further amplified in the remaster with the new twin stick controls, is that the controls are once again even easier, make things even easier in a lot of regards on how to do things. And so like I play it, I'm like, man, this is way, way easier. Like it's so much easier to do this.
Things like when you're fighting, maybe we won't spoil who you fight after getting your totem items, but instead of having to wait for them to charge and counter, you just be like, I'm gonna manually aim right at the underside of your throat where you're vulnerable. It's like,
I like the spoiler alert on a 20-year plus.
I know. If people haven't played it at this point, like I don't care.
I mean, you say it's a 20-year-old game, but Remaster is only a couple months old.
It's true. It's true. It's true. It's true. My kids want to play through it, and I mean, they wouldn't know anything. But another good one would be the flower boss. Where you have to shoot the 4 dishes. I remember playing that. Yes. I remember playing that on the Wii when I finally got Trilogy, and was blown away by how insanely easy it was with the motion controls to hit all the dishes versus the GameCube controller. And I was like, holy crap, that took like literally a quarter of the time. And then when I was playing through Remastered, I switched to twin sticks. I was like, Yep. Easy. Easy mode.
The funny thing is, like, because I know there are people who are upset about that, but, again, that when I played Prime the first time, it was, several years after it had first released. And, you played, single stick FPS all the way through the N64 era, or playing with a joystick on a PC. Or whatever
I played dual stick on N64. It's called the C buttons.
Yeah, it's okay. It's all right. Some of us just went with the out of the box option. But I mean, you're gonna make me segue now. Twine, all about them C buttons. It was impossible to hit. But anyways, I know.
I remind everyone how I still play games? This is movement, this is look, because the C buttons are on this side of controller, and then you look on this side of controller.
No, that's blasphemy.
That's how I still play games. I learned my games with Turok and GoldenEye.
Yeah, Duke Nukem 64 did that as well, I think.
Yeah, a lot of N64 games did.
Yeah,
Rainbow Six did as well. It was good.
But what I was getting at is that, so going back and playing Prime, in like 05, I actually struggled with it on the GameCube because, even though it only been like 4 years, I'm like, apparently I forgot how to play single stick shooters, and so it's like, I was, getting deep in the game, didn't finish it, but got deep into the game, but it's like, it felt like a struggle bus, especially with some of those boss fights, where there was like an arbitrary level of difficulty because of the single analog stick.
Yep.
So even though the Wii version sacrificed a lot of those cool visuals, I enjoyed that it at least made the fights feel fair, that I could aim where I wanted to aim when I wanted to aim.
Yep.
So, I mean, I really enjoyed playing it with the dual analog stick. And yeah, I fully acknowledge there were some fights where I thought to myself, man, this fight was brutal in the GameCube, and I just, like, boot stomped this boss.
Like I said, an argument could be made on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Again, I don't really have too much of a preference. Like, I want people to be able to experience the games and enjoy them. But, like, I can acknowledge that it's way easier than it used to be. But another funny thing about the original single stick controls that I thought was really funny, because not a couple years later, a game called Resident Evil 4 came out on GameCube and featured the exact same stick controls as Metroid Prime. Like, it was still a legacy stick control. You'd move forward and you'd turn left and right and you'd move back. And then you'd aim and it would turn into your aiming. Like, that's the same control scheme that Resident Evil 4 has. And it was hilarious to me at how many people hated Metroid Prime's controls and then turned around and praised Resident Evil 4's. And one of my buddies was also like that. He could not stand Metroid Prime and like didn't ever really like playing it. And so, but he loved RE4, and I'm like, dude, RE4 has literally the same controls as Metroid Prime. And like
Yeah.
the big difference for him, memory serving me, was just the fact that it went from third person to first person. That was the only thing that made it okay.
But then that's not. Wait.
Like that's the
First
only thing that
person.
made it okay. For Resident Evil 4.
What?
No, it's third person, so it's okay. It's like, but it's the same controls. Like,
Pause, options, visor off, unpause. There, now you're first person even more. You know. It's
I
like-
know, it's hilarious. But there was a lot of discourse about that. Like a lot of people did hate the controls in Metroid Prime, from the group that I associated with at the time. Whereas
Yeah.
I had no problems with it. Like you get used to it, controls. Like
It kind
I-
of falls into the same basket that GoldenEye does for me, right? Like that was the norm for the time, right?
yeah,
Because everyone's like Halo 1 or Halo 2. It's like those are the games that set the trend and also came out at the same time.
yep, exactly.
It's like how many other Xbox shooters had terrible controls?
A lot of them. Go play
A
Gold
lot.
or go play 007 Agent Under Fire
Yeah.
on
like,
original Xbox. Like it
yeah, like
just
even
feels awful compared to Halo, just in controls. Like
yeah,
you could
even
go into game design and
first-person
stuff.
Shooters, even straight up first person shooters in that day had junky controls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
I think
it's not fair to
um,
judge the game by that standard. And like GoldenEye on the N64, you know, the GameCube Metroid Prime understood its limits.
hmm
You know, and it made kind of like the difficulty with RE4 with its tank controls is the fact that it is tank controls. They factored it into Metroid Prime. So yeah, it might not be exactly comfortable in a way you want, but it's playable. It's not like it's expected to play like a twin stick shooter, but doesn't.
Yeah.
It's expected to play like a tank controlled first person shooter.
Yeah.
And it does that.
And again, the C stick had its own special function of switching between your 4 weapons.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because the controller that came out before the GameCube controller was the N64 controller, right? No one was really doing twin stick shooters yet.
no. I mean, even PS1, like it had a number of twin stick shooters, but none of them felt great unless you heavily customize the controls, of course. But like default control schemes were still being explored, still being determined, and it wasn't until Halo 1 came and set a standard
Yeah.
that would follow, and then Halo 2 cemented that standard, which then again got cemented because of Call of Duty and Halo 3.
Yeah.
Like that's
And-
what cemented like the
Yeah.
first person controls. Like we still use those controls today in every game by default. Outside of
Yeah.
a couple of special cases, but like that's what's funny. It's like the twin stick controls in Metroid Prime Remaster, it's like, yeah, this is cool. It's a little weird having to select your weapons now, but it's kind of whatever. But like it's cool to see it. But
We swapped
It's
that.
not-
So I made it so you had to hold what was it? X. to
yeah,
swap
X,
visors, 'cause I
X,
couldn't stand
and-
it with my weapons.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, like it's great that new control options exist for everybody just so they can have a better experience that they can make
Yeah.
it through. Like that's great. But
Yeah.
I'm never going to fault the original for how it was designed because it worked. It worked for the game that was
Yeah.
built.
Yeah,
Now,
and I might have gone a little off point there, but yeah, like it's the whole like it was designed around its limitations. So yeah, like it did its job. It was they knew what they were limited to and they designed accordingly.
Yep.
And that is why the controls are okay.
It's not like you're playing Uncharted on post Halo release, post Gears of
Yeah.
War release, and wondering why the heck Sony screwed the controls up so bad.
I think they also screwed it up with their Alien first-person shooter. What was it, Resistance?
See, the
I
thing
remember
about
the controls being
Resistance,
very awkward.
the default controls are atrocious, but you can at least customize them and make it something
Fair.
enjoyable. But I still have a hard time going back and playing my like Uncharted's my favorite Sony franchise. Like I'm just gonna get it out there. Like I love Uncharted, but those games have the worst crappy controls ever. And it's like this game came out after Gears of War 1. Like there's no excuse. There's no excuse. This came out after Halo 2. There's no excuse. And And then, like, The Last of Us kept the crappy controls going. It's like, this came out after everything. How is it still bad? Like, it doesn't make sense.
I don't think you're allowed to badmouth Last of Us on the internet. I think that's against the internet rules.
Yeah, the internet's coming after you now, Ice. You said something bad about The Last of Us.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. That game got so overhyped because I was working at GameStop when it came out. It got so overhyped by the time I played it. I was like, this isn't even that great. Like, it will forever be the most overhyped and underdelivered game I've ever played. Like, the intro was so phenomenal, and then the rest of the game to me was like, anyway.
Yeah, we can get back on track for
anyway,
because I know some of us are on a time constraint.
Yes. Let's get back to it.
I guess some pros. What I really enjoyed about Metroid, and I think it kind of shaped my expectations for games going into the future, is it really nailed an atmosphere.
Yes.
Because like atmosphere, gameplay of course comes first, but atmosphere, some might argue different priorities, but for me, atmosphere is second. As long as the story doesn't tank it. So I guess story and atmosphere tie. But
well, I mean, they kind of tie into one another.
Yeah, but like the ambience, for me particularly, like the sound effects for Metroid Prime are phenomenal because they don't even just sound like pew pew laser sounds. They actually sound like they're being generated not in the environment that you're in, but also external to you. It really does sound like when you fire something and it hits a wall that it's not just happening outside of you. It's reverberating in the atmosphere or in the area it's in, and then it's passing through your armor. So it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like there's actually an armored suit between you and the environment. And I really love that they've sold that so well.
Yeah. To build upon your point, the way that the story is presented too, through data logs, lore, Chozo lore, enemy data banks, and just the way the entire thing is presented just leads to the sense of, I believe it's often described to as just the loneliness of Metroid Prime, because this world was once flourishing and now it is dying.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they did a really
it sells itself so well. And like just exploring like the Chozo ruins, where it's like this used to be a like thriving civilization. Now it's just getting covered in sand and all kinds of stuff.
And the sound effects really help sell that loneliness. Like when you go into the tubes in Chozo ruins, like those metal tubes between rooms where those insects flock.
Oh yeah.
Like when the background ambience is just doing that low grumble and you fire and it makes the place feel so empty.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's not even empty. Like you're in a big grass field, but it's so beautiful outside. Like, no, you're in a graveyard. You're not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
You are trespassing on hollow ground.
Yeah. And that's something I feel like Prime 3 kind of lost a little bit of with its more Federation focused story, but like
I agree with that.
The music and everything about the sound design in Prime 1 was just it just hits you, man. Like you're just going through and it was so well made. Like I'm to this day I am just stunned by it. Like I've beaten this game about 5 times now. I beat it on stream not too long ago with the pretty sure both of you were there for that. For parts of that, like not the whole thing, but I think you both popped in for parts of it. But like that was like a year ago-ish. And then I'm almost done with the remaster. I haven't finished it as quickly as I'd like, but like it just, even after playing through it that many times, like one, I'm still getting lost. Like it's incredible that I'm still getting lost in this game, having beaten it 5 times. And then just it still gives you that sense of wonder, especially with the remaster, because it just has the whole new visual layer of paint over it. But even still, it's just like, yeah, it's still mind blowing. And like diving into the pirates' layers within the Phazon mines and all these other things, just like it's just
Yeah. That was
they
also
they
something
nailed
else.
it. They just nailed it. Like there's nothing. There is literally nothing I would change about this game, and that's a rare thing to say. Like you play any game, you play any game. Yeah, I'd like to change this. Yeah, I'd like to change that. Yeah, I would like to change this. I think about Metroid Prime, and there's literally nothing I would change about this game.
I
Like,
think I do have some critiques. Nothing I would say is like a major negative, but there are some things I kind of wish they did differently. But I do agree with what you're saying, that it's kind of the perfect game for what it is.
yeah.
I think this is a game design choice, but I wish that there was kind of a little bit more going on in Magmoor Caverns. Magmoor
It is kind of
Caverns,
a hallway for the other area.
it's just a hallway because like granted there are a couple things, you know, like you have a couple missile upgrades and stuff, but like you don't have any boss fights in Magmoor Caverns.
That's
You
true.
know?
That's true.
And it's like it's really just a pass through point that you run when you're like, hey, I need to get to Chozo Ruins. Okay, I'm going back to Fendara Drifts. Okay, now I'm you know, it's like you're just running to go someplace else.
Yeah,
You know?
that's fair. That's
and,
fair.
And you know, and that wouldn't even be so big of a problem, except that for me at least, a lot of the enemies in Magmoor Caverns are just annoying. Like dodging those little beetles that'll grab you when you're in the morph ball, you know, having to, you know, before you get the ice beam, waiting for the fire spouts to stop, you know, things like that, where it's a pass through, but it has kind of obnoxious jolting stops, you know? So it's like Magmoor Caverns, I think could use a little bit of TLC in the design, but
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
my problem with
I mean, like, I mean that's getting nitpicky, you know.
I do think there is a slight problem with navigation, not so much in backtracking itself, but not really knowing where the elevators take you, right? Like, okay, how do I get to this spot in Chozo Ruins while I'm in Fendora Drifts? And you can't really like look at the map to know which elevator gets you closest there, right? It's kind of like elevator to Chozo Ruins East. I don't know where that is on the Chozo Ruins map, right? Like, is it this elevator?
It's
Is
time.
it that
It's
elevator?
time for you to get good, Zachary.
Yeah, it's time to get good. Yeah, so that's the only thing I wish is that the map was more readable. Because
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like it stacks on top of itself and it's really hard to know where doors actually taking you. And that's not the same thing as wanting a marker. I don't want a waypoint marker, but I do kind of wish that I could look at the map and know, okay, if I go down this hallway and take this elevator, and then maybe if you like click on the elevator room, it takes you to where that elevator comes out. So that way you can kind of know, it's like, okay, yeah, this is kind of taking me to where I want to go.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of make understanding the map a little bit easier. I
Yeah.
think my only other real critique is that I don't feel like the thermal visor or the X-ray visor are properly used, because outside of solving some puzzles, they don't really offer you something unless the game forces you to use them. You know, I don't know.
Well,
That could even be a
the
you
thermal
go.
visor gets a heavy bit of use, you know, kind of in the middle of the game,
Yeah.
you know, or mid late. Like you have a whole section that is just pure darkness, and the only way to see what's going on is the thermal visor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's also the point where you get the thermal visor. I
Yeah,
guess
but I
my
mean, you
thing
have to backtrack through that area a couple times, you know.
fair, but I
It's
kind of wish
not
there
my
was.
favorite, but yeah,
Yeah.
the X-ray visor. I mean,
Chozo
like,
ghosts.
Chozo
Yeah.
ghosts, but I mean that's only if you want to kill them fast, you know.
And that's even if you want to kill them, because let's face it, when you're in that late game, you can just run through the room while they're spawning, and the music gets all intense, and you just open the
Whoa.
door, walk out, and they're like, "Oh, she just left."
Well, hold on. We're playing video games, a first-person shooter, and we're not shooting anything that moves. I think you and I are playing a different game. Okay, if it
Fair.
spawns, it dies. That's just
Fair.
the rule.
Fair.
That's the thing
third
too.
critique
That is
then.
the thing though. The thermal visor and the X-ray visor are used in some boss fights as well. So
Yeah.
Oh, the X-ray
I do
visor
think-
is used, yeah, in a
Yeah.
boss fight.
I guess
Two,
it's kind
actually.
of like if it was more so like if there were more areas that were maybe pitch black and you could theoretically navigate them, but why do that when you can wait for the thermal visor and just do it proper? You know, maybe that's more a different game style, but like outside of that one area that's intentionally designed for the thermal visor, it really doesn't come up again unless there's a specific case where the game's asking you to use it right here, right now.
well, I mean
Like,
that's
maybe-
just a lot of video games in general, though. I mean, look at Zelda.
Yeah.
You're only using the dungeon item for some
Fair.
games only in that dungeon, especially Twilight Princess. Like,
Fair. And I think that is a preference. I'm just kind of like the whole, like, if you give me a loadout, I kind of want advantages and disadvantages to different parts of the loadout, I guess.
yeah,
Mhm.
You know, maybe it's a little different because Metroid is kind of escalation. Like you start weak and then you become strong. So
yeah.
it might not really work towards that philosophy. But I don't know. It'd be kind of neat if like you could attack enemies with the combat visor, but if you attack them with the thermal visor, you might see a weakness. And I don't mean like X-ray visor where you're just tracking the Chozo ghosts as they move. I mean like, oh, there's a new lock-on point.
Mm.
You know.
Well,
I don't know.
Part of that comes down to the limitation in the controls again for what they had
Yeah.
available. I mean, if you had to manually aim at a certain weak point, it would have been a lot more difficult. It would have kind of reduced the streamline of the combat lock-on system.
Fair.
But I mean, it does activate certain weak points in certain boss fights, like you're saying. So I mean, it kind of tried to do what you're wanting it to, just not as
Yeah.
fleshed
Yeah,
out as maybe you
and-
were
and I'm-
hoping it
With
would
the,
be.
because with the
definitely
thermal
nitpicking.
visor, wasn't the fight? I can't remember his name now. The ice rock.
Yeah,
monster,
the rock
didn't that use the
monster.
thermal
That one
visor?
uses the thermal
Fair.
visor to do the weak
Yeah,
points.
just like the
Um,
X-ray visor you used for the final boss fight, and I think
you used
Omega Pirate.
the Mega Pirate uses the X-ray and thermal. Maybe I don't remember off the
I
top of my
guess
head.
my thinking is in normal combat outside of situations that are intentionally designed
Yeah.
for this feature, why would I use it normally?
Yeah.
I guess is
Well,
my
and
question.
I actually didn't care for the X-ray visor. Like the other visors, like I understood what I was seeing. I don't know why, but the X-ray visor, I'm like, this. I'm
Because
losing
everything is
so
just,
much
like, it's
definition in the
really
world,
bright.
and like I'm getting confused on the depth. Like I felt like I
Yeah.
lost depth. I was like, I would not want to be platforming in the X-ray visor.
Yeah,
Which they make
I
you
feel
do
like
in
the X-ray
frickin'
visor
Prime 2.
suffered more.
They make
Yeah, I
you do
definitely
that in
feel
Prime
like
2. They had that
Yeah.
one X-ray visor wannabe, and you had to do some certain platforming with it.
I think my final
If I remember right.
critique is enemies respawn once you go 2 rooms away,
Mhm.
and I kind of wish they wouldn't. Like either have the room stay clear until you go on an elevator and leave the area, or have the room stay clear until you like close the game completely and come back in.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
that could lead to some complaints about boredom and empty worlding when the game
True.
is already pretty empty worlded to begin with, just because of its very nature.
Actually, that could even tie into what you said. I might be trying to play it as like a speedrunner thinking, not necessarily an FPS thinking. So I can see that one. But
No,
Well,
outside of-
I do understand that because sometimes
Yeah.
you clear a room and you start walking only to realize you had your map flipped the wrong way, and so
Yeah.
you're like, I gotta stop and go back, you know. And now I'm refighting these guys I killed 2 seconds ago.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, as long as you're not playing it like Wiz, you could just skip over most of them every time anyway. Like you're just like, oh, I went to the wrong room. Just run past these guys. Don't need to fight them again. I have
Don't
full
even
health.
understand the words coming out of your mouth right now.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's just gibberish.
like
exactly.
run
outside
past
of
them,
those-
but then they're behind you shooting you. How what do you mean run past them? That doesn't make any sense.
You have 12 energy tanks. It's okay if you use one of them.
Yeah.
Still not understanding what you're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, outside of those 3 those are my only real complaints, and two of them I would even argue are just personal preference. I would say
Nah,
the
that's
map
fine.
not being legible is my only real complaint. But yeah, outside of that, I think it is a flawless game. You know, like yeah, it's just it sells such a good story at a pace you want to read it. You
Yeah.
know, like it never stops you to read, you know, to hear someone's sad backstory. It never stops you. It's you choose when you want to read that backstory.
Yep.
You know, and like I said, like I'm a sucker for good sound design. Not even like, oh man, this gun sounds really beefy, but does the sound feel like it's being generated in this space in a realistic manner, right?
Yeah.
Like in Metroid, it really does. It adds that little bit of tinny to it. Not like an echo where you just kind of echo, 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 but it's kind of like distorted in a way that it would be in a tinny environment. You know, it sounds like the sounds are generated outside of your ears. I hate it when games just like make the sound inside your head. Like, no, I did not hear that gunshot inside my head. It happened in front of the barrel in front of me going that way.
Oh
I love
man.
sound.
I can't wait till we have fully path traced audio in like every game.
Right?
It's gonna be good.
Yeah, but yeah,
man.
I would say 10 out of 10, right?
I think this would be one of those games I'd give a rare 10 out of 10 to. Definitely. Like I love this game that much that yeah, I can always play it. I can always enjoy it. Like I said earlier, I have no complaints about it really. Like I don't think it's like I really just enjoy it. Like now if we're talking about Prime 2, I have a lot of things about that game I could talk about, but like Prime 1, like maybe the whole Meta Ridley thing, like what is Meta Ridley? Like what kind of weird freakazoid is this? But like even that, it's like eh. And even for people that are new to Metroid Prime, like the game will eventually give you hints. Like it doesn't just offer you hints instantly. Like that's one of the cool things about it. Like even if you get stuck,
it tells you the room to go to.
It doesn't tell you how to get there.
You how to get there.
Yeah. And I think that's a good blend, honestly. So, like,
I do.
As someone that was new to this game, like, I thought it was just like one of the most enjoyable experiences.
Yeah.
And if you don't want those hint systems at all, like, you could disable them in the options menu too. Like, that's the better thing about it. Like, it gives you whatever experience you want out of it, casual or hardcore.
One thing I want to bring up that I know the comments are going to bring up if we don't, and that would be the artifact quest at the end game. Because a lot of people apparently hate that.
Oh, yeah.
That comes from not exploring early enough in game and finding out that that's a thing you're supposed to be doing while you play.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's just Metroid. Like that's literally Metroid gameplay. Well, because
I mean, like, if you don't know Metroid, I mean that's the thing. I was, it's like I'm gonna be the odd man out. I'm not 10 of 10ing this one, but I think it's because I don't actually like the Metroidvania genre in general. But I'm still good. I think this is a solid 8 of 10. I do get super annoyed when I like run all the way to the end of the map, find a door I can't open, and they're like, hey, remember how 10 minutes ago you were on the opposite side of the map? Run back and then come back here. And I was like, oh, lovely. 20-minute detour to advance the story. Fantastic. My favorite.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
That's the genre. That's what it is, Yeah. So it's like it's like complaining about shooting in a first-person shooter. It's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
And I also think
to go on your artifact tangent there though. When you first unlock the artifact room, you're able to scan every single individual pillar, and it gives you the frickin' room hint for where every single one of them are. And you can always pull that up in the log to know exactly where they are. And they're not even hard clues. Like, most of the rooms on the map are literally named. Like, after something super obvious in the clue. Like, it's so easy. Just if you are used to puzzle solving in that regard. Like, it's not very hard to know where they are.
Sorry,
I'm part of the get good crowd on this game. I'm sorry.
No,
good.
I
I'll say
actually agree.
one of those artifacts was annoying. One of them had you use the X-ray in a very tall cylindrical room without a hint
Yes.
of where in that room it was. So you're like, "Are you kidding me? I got to scan like every single square inch of this tall tower." Like,
Cheat if you use the thermal visor, you'll actually see the outline of all doors. So you
oh
can just see the door.
man,
You can actually literally from the bottom look up with the thermal visor. It's like there's a door behind a wall up there. So
well, that would have been good
get
information
good.
to have.
Get good.
And speaking of the doors, just a glorious shout out to the room of nothingness that Metroid Prime had. The one room in the game that literally had nothing in it that people have been exploring for decades,
is
trying to
that? I don't
figure
remember
out
that room.
what the purpose of this room was, and
Was
it's
that in the mining
literally
area?
just a leftover room that has nothing in it. I think
that in
it's
the
in
mining area?
I think it's in Talon Overworld. I don't remember
Okay.
exactly, but there's literally one room in the game that is literally just an empty room.
That's
Had
funny.
no purpose, but it exists, and people have been exploring that room trying to figure out its secrets, but there just wasn't one.
There's nothing there?
There's nothing there. It's
Yeah.
empty. It's just an empty room.
I am on the get good side of the artifact quest as well, because as both of you, or as you mentioned, was like a lot of the artifacts you just get, or you don't get, but they're in the areas you pass, right? Very few of them are at the end of a very annoying cylinder. And the one in Magmore Caverns you can get as soon as you get super missiles, and you'll pass by that pillar anyway as you go through your adventure. So at most of the artifacts you can get just as you go through the game. And it's also kind of a compliment to the silent storytelling of the game, because if you scan those pillars for the clues at the start, you can kind of be looking for those things as you go through the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I also think it's neat in that it lets you experience your power. So say you get through all of the game and you just need to get the final artifacts, you have your entire arsenal to obliterate everything in your way. And that's part of the satisfaction of a Metroid game. You start weak, but then you start becoming super powerful and the environment bows to you.
Yep.
So, because otherwise you would just get the last power up and then just go fight the Super Metroid. So this quest kind of gives you a reason to go through the world one last time and destroy it.
And don't let the tone in his voice confuse you. He's very devastated about destroying the environment.
I am very yes. I love that environment.
That one that has a hint about underneath the tower, that was a surprising but satisfying twist when you figured that one out.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I know what one you're referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I see, that's the thing. Like, that's what got me stuck on this game when it originally came out back on GameCube, was finding all the artifacts. Like, that's why it took me so long to beat it, because I'd find one and then I'd get lost trying to find another one because I didn't scan the pillars, I didn't have the clues, I didn't actually pay attention to what needed to be done to find these things easily. I was trying to avoid walkthroughs and internet guides, but I'd use it a couple times here and there, but I wanted to beat the game by myself, and that's why it took me so long. Like, I finally figured out I needed to scan the stupid pillars, and I'd get a clue, I'd look at my map and be like, oh, it's literally right there, isn't it? And then go to that room and be like, yep, there it is.
The artifacts also make that power-up noise that when you're near them, that... So it's like you already have an auditory clue that there's something interesting around here anyway.
Yeah, I don't think I was aware of that, to be honest.
Maybe I'm making it up. I don't know.
News to me.
Yeah, I thought they did anyway.
I don't know. Like,
maybe I'm the crazy.
I don't play a lot of games with a headset on, so maybe it's something to do with that. I don't know.
Now I'm crazy and second guessing myself. I'm gonna have to.
We'll have to get community notes to fact check you on this one.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, like, the game, the point of a Metroidvania is mastering the environment. And it's not the game's fault if you didn't read the free hints at the start and didn't do the quest the whole time.
Yeah.
That's just you not mastering your environment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of elitist to be like, get good, but when it comes to this genre, like, that's kind of like the bare minimum that you're expected to know.
Yeah. It's kind of like a Souls game, right? You know, it's
like when that person made a video in Metroid Fusion be like, you have to bomb the floor to make the pillar come up, and everyone's like, yeah, because it's a Metroid game.
Everything.
It's a Metroid game. How are you not bombing everything?
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's a Metroid game. What'd you expect, right?
Yeah, it's like,
And
this
in
is terrible game
platformers,
design. It's like, have you never played a Metroid game? Like, this is like
And it's
bare
like
minimum
platformers.
knowledge that you should
Yeah.
know is like, you shoot everything, you bomb everything. There's secrets, hidden stuff everywhere. Like, this is the bare minimum, and that's what it's like with the artifacts. Like, this is the bare minimum. Like, you need to do the bare minimum. Otherwise, you are just going to be spending 4 years trying to beat this game.
Yeah, it's kind of like complaining that you're playing a platformer and you have to collect things. That's what you do when you platform. You collect things.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, tangent over. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that up because I know someone would say
Yeah.
something about it.
Yeah.
So,
And to them, I say get good.
any closing thoughts then, or just
No,
game?
honestly, for me, it just comes down to I'm glad that this game has been remastered so an entirely new audience can experience it easily, because thankfully it hasn't been inaccessible since GameCube. Like, you could play it on GameCube, you could play it backwards compatible on Wii, and then they came out with the trilogy on Wii to extend its life even further, and then they released it as a Wii Virtual Console game on Wii U. So thankfully the series has been fully available to players for 2 decades at this point. Like, it has never been closed off, but getting a fresh coat of paint on it, enhanced controls so more people can enjoy it their way, like, it just makes me super happy that more people can experience this game, because it is, again, a very special game to me. Because
And also,
I just love it.
And it's also nice that it got re-released on the Switch, because while it did come out on the Wii U was kind of a flop. So it's kind of nice that the console that is front and center got this game, and the numbers for it have been really good. It warms my Metroid heart just how well it's been received.
And it wasn't full price.
Yeah, it wasn't full price, and even to this day, right, there have been Metroid clones for 2D, but there really hasn't been a Metroid Prime clone. Not really.
Not really.
Like,
no.
You know, so it's still special in that regard. You know, there hasn't truly been a first-person platform adventure Metroidvania.
Yeah, not really. Like, there's some that touch on it, but no, I think that Metroid Prime still holds its own unique spin on it there. Because, like, I think of Metroid Prime, and it just makes me think of Jedi Fallen Order. But I mean, obviously, that's a hack and slash Souls-like more than Metroid Prime-like.
Yeah.
So, but it's the next closest thing I could think of when it comes to, like, the environment and the hollowness and the emptiness that it leaves you feeling.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I don't know. It just makes me happy. I'm going to enjoy watching my kids trying to figure this game out. I'm going to try not to spoil anything for them, because I want to see them struggle with it for like a year and a half before they finally finish it.
Oh, I had that moment with my nephew. He was like, wow, that guy, he's wearing really cool armor. It's like, oh, you sweet little thing.
that guy.
Yeah, that guy.
That guy.
Any thoughts, Wiz, or closing remarks?
I mean, I think we've covered it. I'll say the one thing, maybe I shouldn't though, because I'm trying, we're closing remarks, but you
bring it up.
There hasn't been another game like this. But in the modern era, it's typically accepted that jumping puzzles in a first-person game are in poor taste. Like, that's poor design. So,
well, in a first-person shooter, yes, but in a first-person adventure, it's A-okay.
And what's that thing you see the entirety of the game that you're using all the time? What was that? A little gun arm that you're shooting
Yeah,
with?
yeah, but this
in
is
your
a first person. It's a
mode?
first person adventure. It's not a first person shooter. It's
Yeah.
a first person
Uh-huh.
adventure. Come
I
on,
think I
get the
disagree
marketing.
with that
Get the
I
marketing
think I
terms
disagree
right.
with that
Get the marketing terms right.
Look,
Come
they
on,
can call it
come
an
on.
RPG if they want. That doesn't mean that's what it is. Okay.
It's first person adventure. It says so in the magazines from 2002.
I mean, I'm just gonna
A
challenge
rose by
game
any other
developers
name.
to get good. I would
Get
say
good.
Metroid Prime is the example that it can work. It can work.
It can.
They're just
it
bad
can.
developers.
I mean that was all I've got on this game.
Oh man.
Good times.
Oh no, it's so fun. It's so fun. Like, if people don't like the game, like, that's cool. It's not going to affect my enjoyment of it at all. I will still happily play this. I'm probably going to go play it right now even. I actually might load up Dread because now I'm just like in a super Metroid mood. So, Dread replay on hard mode. Let's go. I haven't done that yet. But yes, if you have yet to experience Metroid Prime, or if you've held off on it because it is a first-person game and you're not typically into that sort of thing, like, this is definitely the one to play because it's just that good. Like, in my mind, it's just that good. It is worth. Everyone needs to play it. Like, it's one of those essential games. Like, everyone has their lists, and like this one for me, it's like, this is essential. If you play games, you should play this game. And I guess that's my final thought on it, really. But yeah,
I agree. It's kind of nice having a first-person shooter / adventure / platformer where, yes, you have a weapon, but the weapon is just a tool, right?
Yep.
The job of Metroid Prime isn't to shoot everything. The goal of Metroid Prime is to get the artifacts and destroy the Super Metroid. And sometimes you use a gun to do that. Other times you do other things, like run through the room. I get it. Yeah. But yeah, it's really solid. A nice spin, because like it feels like every first-person game just arbitrarily has become a first-person shooter, and it's really nice that you can still shoot things, but that's not necessarily the point of the game.
Yep. But yeah. All right. What do you think, Wiz? Should people go out and buy Remastered? Should people play this?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't have a copy already, buy it. And if you have a copy already, buy it anyways. I did, and it's fun.
All right. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and call it there with Zachary. Thank you so much for joining me once again. This coming month, we are going to be exploring Metal Gear Solid, the OG PS1, PC, GameCube version, what have you. Just one of those. I've played this game so much, and I'm looking forward to discussing it because
it's going to be fun.
It was a very interesting moment for me.
But let's save that for the next time.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you all so much as always for watching. If you want to get in on the discussion, you can join us on Discord, the Game of the Month channel, and feel free to take part in the discussion and game selection. So until next time, my wonderful internet peeps, y'all stay awesome, keep on gaming, play some Metroid Prime, and we'll see you back next video.